Yeah, my name is Haseeb Ahmed. I'm an artist originally from the US, and I'm living and working here in Brussels. Often my work is relating to or employing technology, but it's not necessarily in order to create the most new or novel application of technology, but rather to use technology in order to pose a critique of the role that technology plays in our society, especially as we increasingly see it as one of the only means of progress, social progress or otherwise. Yeah, and in particular for the last I'd say 10 years or so, I've had an increasing focus on ideas related to wind and air and all of the particular narratives and particulates that are carried in the wind. In order to do this, I'm often working with collaboratively with physicists, aeronautical engineers, but also florists, sound composers as well, and working also site specifically with the conditions created within wind tunnels. Mindspaces for me is an opportunity to further explore and develop an area of interest that I've had in my work for quite some time. So I'm working with the pilot case that relates to workspaces within office spaces. And in particular, I'm really interested in the air conditions that are created within contemporary office buildings, especially when they're sustainable office buildings that often prevent windows from being opened, and as a result you have the same kind of volume of air being recirculated and recycled throughout the building. And it's kind of like the lungs or respiratory of a building or of architecture. And what I'm very interested in is seeing how can we read the contemporary conditions of labor through how air is moving through a space, how heat and air is being exchanged between people and machines, between machines and machines. How does the air become a fluid medium on which all of these conditions of labor are inscribed? And I think this is what I'm interested in developing while working with Mindspaces partners who are very interested in working between the virtual and the actual. So in particular, I'm looking at computational fluid dynamics simulations, so simulations of how air moves within closed spaces on a computer, and how that might relate to our actual experience one-to-one, as we might feel it on our skin, for example. Well, what I'd like to achieve on the one hand is a body of research which is deepening this interest in air as it relates to architecture. But I'd also like to see what comes about through what are the new kind of insights that come about through interaction with some of the Mindspaces partners. So for instance, I'm very excited about working with McNeil and partners who developed the software Rhino. It's a tool that I've been using for 3D modeling since I think 2008 for the last 10-12 years or so. And so this is a chance to really use this as an experimental format rather than only being like a kind of end user. I'm also interested in the kind of contemporary architectural conditions that are created in particular by Zaha Hadid architects, who are also one of the partners for Mindspaces. So I'm curious about the fluid forms that are created through this computational geometry. How is that experienced as well, and how does that also allow for artwork to exist within those forms when the forms of the architecture themselves are so strong? So these are questions I think that start the conversation, but as it develops, I'm excited to see where it will go.